G'day all, Ben Henry's West. Going to do another look at uranium. Been a good week for uranium, so let's just jump in and have a look at a few things here. Now, I saw this story this week. I'll put the link for this story in the description. Uh, it was more about ASX uranium stocks, but of course had connotations for everyone, and that was the news out of Kazakhstan. Of course, they're going to put an extraction tax hike, 25-26, expected to curb supply growth. Again, so that's just going to add to the flavour of the undersupply of the market. So not great news for Kazatomprom, but good news for everybody else, I suppose. So why did the Kazakhstan government do that? Well, I don't know, but if you're long uranium stocks, well, who gives a shit, right? So look, there's a couple of good things. It's not a bad little article to read. Like I said, I'll put a link in the description. And there's a little bit of a rundown here. So what I'll do towards the end of the video, I'll just have a look at Bannerman and Deep Yellow, which are two stocks on the ASX. Look a little bit interesting. Just as a side note, all these other stocks on the ASX, yeah, I don't really like Australian uranium stocks. I don't think they're going to give you too much. You're certainly better off in North American uranium stocks, is pretty obvious, except for maybe Bannerman and Deep Yellow. But of course, there has been talk about from our opposition government here in Australia that there's the possibility of going nuclear in Australia, which I think is highly unlikely for a multitude of reasons. So I do not think that that Australian uranium stocks are a particularly good play. I would much rather play North American. Nonetheless, I'll move off this. So that was just a story that's come out, which has obviously helped tremendously. So the link will be for that article will be in the description. Have a look at it, and let's move on to the charts. So I've been saying this for a while. The big picture, I'm looking for this move, and then this move to be repeated. Looking for at least up to that. Okay, in a three-wave swing, in the same sort of three-wave pattern. So it's been a process of just examining what's going on in here, trying to ascertain whether or not we've got a completed sideways correction before we just go on for the next leg. I think the evidence is growing now a little bit more. So I've been looking for a flat correction, an A wave, expanded B wave, and I was looking for this C wave to come down a little bit further, but of course that news is kind of just clouded the picture a little bit here. I'll just say it like that. So could this be the completion of the correction? Well, certainly here on the daily, we saw some divergence coming into the bottom here, which is by itself not a sign, but it's certainly a sign post. Put it that way, an indicator that the markets was ready to start turning around, and of course we got that great news, and it has. So this looks, this is an impulsive move now. So I would say that this is not going to be corrective of this. Okay, this looks like it's going to be. It looks like it's going to be much more a move that's going to start to take us that direction. And so if that was going to play in this way, what you would have here is what you would consider a running flat. Now the Elliott boffins will say, oh well, that's not a three-wave. Well, yes, this is a little bit iffy for sure, but this to me looks pretty clearly like a three. Maybe you could say, oh well, this is a contracting, an ending diagonal. I think that's a bit of a reach. This looks pretty good for an impulse, I would have thought, as we come down here. Even though the fifth wave was a little bit shorter than perhaps I would have liked, but this looks better as 5 waves than 3. But we are down here on a very small time frame, so we have to take that with a grain of salt. Nonetheless, if you're bullish, you want this to be a running flat. The reason being, very quick and basic Elliott 101, right? We get a rally, okay, and then we get a correction. Now, a flat correction would move in 3, 3, and then 5, like that. Okay, that would be your classic flat correction, where basically the whole correction stays more or less contained within a range. And that just becomes representative, of course, of the balance between the buyers and sellers, the wrestle as we digest this rally. Then we got another type of flat where we would have a rally, then we would have 3 waves back in an A wave, then we would get a B wave that goes past the top there, okay, like that. And then you would get 5 waves down that would take out the bottom. So you would get basically what you would get here is what you would call an expanded flat, because obviously you've got an expanding corrective pattern. So this is a little bit more bullish than this because of this B wave coming in and taking out that top. Okay, that just means that the buyers had a little bit, the sellers couldn't hold it here. Okay, they overpowered here. Okay, so that is just the general idea with that. Now the third one we're looking at, and this is what it looks like is transpiring now. This is what I thought was happening, but what looks like is happening now is that we've had the rally, then we've had the A wave back, we've had the B wave which takes out the top, and then we've got a C wave that failed to make the bottom of A. And that's what you'd call a running flat. Now this is the most bullish of the flat corrections for the simple reason that we had the retracement, the subsequent counter rally pushed us beyond the peak of A, okay, or the peak of the rally, and the correction of this rally didn't have enough power to take out this low. Okay, so what you basically get is a flat correction and an upward sloping trend. So this is bullish. I mean, when you see this, you're expecting a powerful rally to ensue from here. And so that sort of pattern is what I'm kind of detecting here now. This C wave is very shallow. I would have thought it'd come down a little bit further, but the fact that it hasn't been able to do it does fit the pattern. If you're going to count this as 5, you're going to count this as 3, and somehow squash a 3 into that, you're going to count that as a running flat. That would mean for me that this correction is pretty much done, and this could be the opening throws of the next big rally. So we'd simply be looking for that impulsive move to the upside like this, just to start off the progression. And as we zoom out, we're looking for the move that's going to take us, pardon me, up towards this potential target and possibly even further. Okay, so that is basically going to mirror. So we would go A, B, C. That's what we're looking for. So there are no guarantees in the market, of course, but this does look like a good start for 1, 2, potentially 3. Okay, maybe 3, maybe coming in for a 4, coming in for a 5th for the first movement. Okay, so you would expect the rip and then the pullback, and that pullback would be the one that you're interested in to go long from a trading perspective. If you're not even trading, if you're just watching as an investor, okay, you're going, okay, well, this looks like the kind of thing that we want to see. We were looking for this pullback in 3 waves, and if it can hold and go again, we're feeling pretty good about the big picture. URNM, same thing. Okay, this also looks like a running flat. Okay, and a bullish conclusion. The one caveat here is what I'm just a little bit cautious of is that this potential C wave is very. I'd just like to see it a little bit closer to that A wave. Okay, it's not. It's very shallow, so that makes me a little bit suspicious. Because look, the other thing that could happen here is we could do another 3 wave down here. So and then all of a sudden, if that sort of happened, then I'd start to think, okay, well, are we going to now go into some sort of prolonged triangle like that? But I think that's a fair way down the track. I don't think we have to think about that. We've just got to concentrate on what's happening here and now. So this is what I was sort of thinking might happen, but that's kind of blown out of the water now. So I can just get rid of that because it just looks like this is completed. Now, once again, that is a 5 wave it's very short. It's a short 5 wave. It's a short C wave. So it leaves me with a little bit of trepidation, but I can just put the Elliott aside and go, okay, well, let's just look at just general market dynamics and where are we? Well, we haven't made the 50% back yet. So that'll be the first point of call. It's just to see how the market responds in here. If it pulls back and can go again, then we're going back here going, okay, this is starting to look a little bit more confirmed. Is this an impulse? Well, maybe. If this is 5, this is 3, it starts to get a little bit tricky. 5, 3, 5. Well, it can't be a zigzag because the B wave's gone too far. So there could be a little bit more jigging and poking going on there in the future. But this is just, just look at the last swing, okay? Take the Elliott off. You concentrate on nothing more than this to that, okay? Because that's what that is the first point of call. You know, when we've been in a downtrend, we will bounce. We'll either make a new low or we will hold and start doing this, okay? And that's all we've got to watch for. So we've got a good start. That's all we've got. The rest of it's just projection work, froth and bubble. It matters in the rearview mirror, okay? So this is just where we sit, but always subject to change. URNJ looks a little bit different, and this one looks better to me because this has gone much closer. So that looks better as a flat because it is flat, okay? It's not even though this is still a running flat. And once again, yeah, that might be an impulse, and that's going to throw everything out, but we'll just have to wait and see. However, I can only deal with what I can see here, and this just looks like what fits the bill the best. So it's a good kickoff. But once again, where are we? Okay, we're short of that retracement zone, so that becomes the first point of call, just to see how it responds into that zone. And once again, what do we want? Well, we just want to see that effectively, okay, and ideally that through the top. That would be, you know, what we truly want. So that hasn't eventuated. We just wait and see. But this one, the structure in this one looks a little bit better. Okay, this is 5 waves. Just looks like it works a little bit better than some of the other ones. So okay, it's all good. We just wait and see what's happened. This looks like a decent case for a 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Let's come in here to the hourly. I haven't done this, but it's, you know, it's a little bit. This looks like a 1, 2, 3 wave because it looks like even here you've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, perhaps something like that. So the structure in here looks pretty good. It's doing what you would hope you would hope to see an impulse do. Okay, so maybe we've got a little bit further and we're going to go 261.8. So that is where I would sit with URNJ. So yeah, it's good. It all looks okay. So just take a look at energy fuels here, and not a lot's changed other than, you know, we've pushed away, which is good. Okay, so just when we come in here and look at this, and we know we've got that big sort of fat downtrend, we've got this little trend starting to develop. Okay, but I think the last time I looked at it, the problem here, we did come down a little bit deep, but the thing here is that we didn't make a new low, so we're just on the way here. What we just still want is to make a new high. Okay, so even just looking at it in an Elliott perspective here, it just looks like you've got a nice start because that's just what you want to see. So on the short term, you've got that little trend going up. Okay, I think we can get rid of this now. I think that was an old retracement level that we sort of busted through. But just looking at this now, you know, we're just looking at this little bit sort of held here. We've come up, we've got the measured move target. So, you know, it just becomes a game of waiting for the next retracement to see where it comes. Now, we could probably take this large pivot because I suspect. Look, here's the danger. Okay, when I look at this, this is the dangerous part I see. There is a 3-wave swing here. There is a 3-wave swing in here. Okay, I don't know if I call it dangerous, but it's this sort of pattern looks like it's now the chance to reverse. So yeah, I wouldn't say danger, but we just don't want, you know, we don't want to see something like, obviously, like that. I mean, that's going to sort of wreck up the pattern of what's going on here. But I think this pattern's broken. That's just what it looks like to me. But we just got to be a little bit careful. I'm just looking at how the market's just responded to the RSI topping out. This is just on a 4-hour, so you can just see here, we've got a little bit of, I mean, that's classic divergence, right? Classic divergence. But you can just see we've just run hot here again, okay? So this is okay. It just means we just want to see what the retracement's going to look like, okay? And look, I think the fact that that this peak has fallen short of this one is not a bad sign, okay? Because if you got above here, then you've got divergence coming. You've got bearish divergence, which we don't want. But because this is run up here like this, just be mindful. You know, just look at the retracement, because any pullback here is fine as long as we don't take out this bottom. But you know, back to here and then on like that. That's what we want to see. Okay, so that's where we sit. Just be mindful because this is hot. Last couple of times it's got up here, it's just heralded a bit of a short-term top. So, you know, I think this still looks good, but just be a little bit cautious in terms of, or just anchor your expectations in the near term. Okay, we're just going to swing over, change gears here, and just go to the ASX and look at Bannerman, with one of those stocks that was mentioned in the article. Now, the first thing I see here is, okay, there looks like there's two trends going on here, right? There's this trend, and then there's this sort of, it's not quite the same, but certainly this was a nice little trend line that we had going on through here. I would say the way that I deal with this, I would just probably draw, I would draw a trend channel to make the bottom of the overall trend area like that, because we've kind of had some nice runs here and there, and it's kind of still holding, but drawing a clean trend line through there is a little bit difficult. Other way, of course, you could do it is regression channel, a line of best fit, but we're kind of outside that. But anyway, I'm just looking at how the supports are holding. So I'd kind of look at Bannerman like this. Now, of course, what gets my attention, of course, is how heavily this has been oversold, and coupled with that, coming off this run that we're right on the 50. So that in itself would lead me to think, okay, well that's a trade setup. Okay, that's something I would be interested in as a trade. Okay, the center line, the ultimate target would be here. Okay, in time and price, but I can guarantee you it almost certainly won't intersect the midline there. But as long as this pivot holds, there's the literature says there's an 80% chance we hit the median line. Now we could just hit it here, so there may not be a massive trade in it, but that is just the kind of setup that I would like to see. Okay, if I was looking for a trade. Now the divergence isn't massive, but it is there. It is there. So we've had this big run down, and this is kind of something else that I don't mind the look of. This is a sharp run. It's a sharp trend. So just even looking at the geometry of this trend, we've just managed to, then we're on a 4-hour here, but we've just managed to sneak outside of it. Okay, so it's not a bad sign. We've got a bit of a kick up here in the RSI. So this looks good to potentially rally. Now, what would I be looking for? Well, personally, I would certainly be looking at the retracement on the way back. Okay, so certainly just shy of $4. That would be, and that's in Australian dollars. That's where I'd be looking. Okay, and if I was long here, if I took a long and I got up here, I'd certainly be thinking at least that. Just me. You can do whatever you want, but just for me, I would be thinking about certainly moving my stop to break even at least, or start to trail it in, because I would just expect that the natural reaction up here would be a bit of selling. Okay, and then maybe there's a bit of a retracement, but hopefully we would get that. That would be the general idea. So the setup here is pretty good, I think, for Bannerman. It's just sitting right on a nice retracement. There's a lot of boxes ticked there. Whether or not what's going on overseas is going to be enough to get this powering forward, I don't know. But just technically, if you take all that aside, just pure technically, that's in a good area. Finish off with deep yellow. Beautiful trend. Okay. Have you missed the boat here? I don't know about that. The only problem with this, from a trading setup perspective, is these pullbacks. They're quite deep compared to their preceding rally. So in terms of a 5-wave structure, we don't have an Elliott progression, because an Elliott progression you would expect the pullbacks to be quite shallow relative to, except for maybe the second wave, relative to the actionary waves. And here we don't. We've got quite. It's still fine. It's still an uptrend. Okay, and we've got a great little uptrend line going on here. And as far as I can see, we've got a low, we've got another low, we've got the higher low, and then again we've got so far what's proved to be yet another higher low. And if I could ever grab that tool, which now I can, and obviously the highs are getting higher as well. So higher high, higher low. That's what makes a trend. So that is going on, and we've just hit this trend channel again. Now you could come off this pivot, and if you do, we're right on the 60. Well, I think maybe we just missed it, but we're very close. So you've got to take a bit of license there, because of course the actual measured moves have been a little bit tricky in here. We had a few, and that's one there that played out pretty well. Coming off here, this is probably the better one. But if that was going to be the case, you drag off this pivot here. That one was pretty. This one I'm talking about is pretty deep. But if we come off this pivot, we're right on here. So you can take some liberty there, a bit of license, but I think overall it looks like it's in a good spot to rally. So I think Deep Yellow and Bannerman, in terms of ASX, they're the ones to play. But the same thing would apply here, just coming back the other way. Yeah, I mean, look, your expectations are for a higher high, okay? But first thing we need to do is we just need to defeat this zone between, say, $1.55, $1.62. Even if we get turned away from there, we're just looking for that. Okay, if we get that, then we can feel pretty good that we're on the way. So that's where Deep Yellow sits as well. Nice trend, not so much structure in terms of measured moves. No, I'll leave it up to you whether or not that's a risk you want to take. So look, I'll leave it there this week. This has gone a bit longer than I want. Thanks for watching. See you next week. Bye.